In the early decades of the 20th century, the global landscape of childhood was undergoing a quiet but profound transformation. In the small market town of Billund, Denmark, this shift was felt through the workbench of a master carpenter named Ole Kirk Christiansen. The year was 1932, and the world was gripped by the Great Depression. Construction projects had withered, and the demand for stairs, ladders, and ironing boards, the staples of a traditional carpentry shop, had plummeted. Christiansen found himself at a crossroads, facing the reality of a shrinking business and the responsibility of providing for his 4 sons. It was during this period of economic hardship that he turned his attention towards smaller, more affordable items. He began crafting wooden toys, utilizing the high-quality birch wood he had originally intended for furniture. These early creations, ranging from pull-along ducks to miniature cars, were born of necessity, yet they carried a signature of craftsmanship that refused to compromise on quality, even as the economy suggested otherwise. The transition from a general carpentry shop to a dedicated toy manufacturer was not an overnight success. In 1934, Christiansen sought a name that would define his new venture. He combined the Danish words "le godt," meaning to play well, to form the name Lego. It was a simple directive that would eventually anchor the company's philosophy for the next century. Despite the rebranding, the early years were defined by immense struggle. Fire, a constant threat to wood-based industries, razed the Lego factory in 1942, destroying most of the company's inventory and blueprints. Yet, Christiansen rebuilt, driven by a conviction that children deserved toys of the highest standard. By the late 1940s, the technological landscape began to change with the introduction of plastic injection molding machines. In 1947, despite the skepticism of his peers and the high cost of the machinery, Christiansen purchased the first injection molding machine in Denmark. This decision marked the beginning of a shift from wood to cellulose acetate, a move that would fundamentally alter the company's trajectory and the nature of play itself. Among the samples provided with the new machine were self-binding building bricks from a British company called Kidcraft. These plastic blocks featured studs on the top and a hollow bottom, allowing them to be stacked, though they lacked a secure locking mechanism. Christiansen and his son, Ole Kirk Christiansen, began refining this design. In 1949, they released the automatic binding bricks. These early iterations were met with resistance. The market still preferred wooden toys, and plastic was often viewed as a cheap, inferior substitute. The bricks also suffered from a lack of clutch power, meaning they could be stacked but would easily fall apart if the model was moved. It was during a business trip to England in 1954 that Godfred had a conversation with a toy buyer who lamented the lack of a system in the toy industry. This conversation sparked a realization: the bricks should not just be individual toys, but part of an interconnected universe where every element worked with every other element. This realization led to the development of the Lego system of play. In 1955, the company launched its first system-based products, focusing on a town plan theme. However, the technical limitation of the bricks remained a hurdle. After several years of experimentation, the breakthrough occurred in 1958 with the development of the stud and tube coupling system. By adding small tubes to the underside of the bricks, the designers created a vacuum-like grip that allowed the blocks to stay together firmly while remaining easy for a child to pull apart. This was the birth of the modern Lego brick. Tragically, Ole Kirk Christiansen passed away just months before the patent for this new design was granted, leaving Godfred to lead the company into its most ambitious era. Under Godfred's leadership, the company made the strategic decision to phase out wooden toys entirely following another factory fire in 1960, choosing to bet the company's future exclusively on the plastic brick system. As the 1960s progressed, the company focused on expanding the versatility of the system. The introduction of the wheel in 1962 was a pivotal moment, as it allowed children to build vehicles that could actually move, moving the brand beyond static buildings. During this time, the company also established its own internal design standards, ensuring that every brick made, regardless of the year it was produced, would remain compatible with any other brick. This commitment to precision engineering meant that a brick manufactured in 1958 would hit perfectly with a brick made decades later. This universality became a core differentiator in a market flooded with disposable, single-use toys. In 1968, the company opened Legoland in Billund, a theme park built entirely of bricks, which served as a physical manifestation of the brand's creative potential and drew hundreds of thousands of visitors in its first year alone. The 1970s saw a structural evolution that broadened the brand's demographic reach. In 1969, the company introduced Duplo, a larger brick designed specifically for toddlers whose motor skills were not yet refined enough for the standard size. This was followed in 1977 by the launch of Expert Builder sets, later known as Technic, which introduced gears, axles, and beams for more advanced mechanical builds. Perhaps the most iconic addition arrived in 1978 with the Lego minifigure. These small, yellow-skinned characters with movable limbs and a friendly expression gave children a way to inhabit the worlds they built. The minifigure transformed the experience from purely architectural to narrative-driven, allowing for role-playing and storytelling. This era also marked the beginning of themed sets such as Space and Castle, which provided a loose framework for play without dictating exactly how a child should interact with the pieces. Despite decades of consistent growth, the company faced a severe existential crisis in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The rise of video games and digital entertainment led to a decline in traditional toy sales. In an attempt to diversify, the company expanded into jewelry, clothes, and video games too rapidly, losing sight of its core product. By 2003, the organization was facing significant financial deficits and was on the brink of collapse. This prompted a radical internal restructuring. Under new leadership, the company divested from non-core businesses, sold off its theme parks, and returned its focus to the fundamental building experience. They began to embrace their adult fan base, recognizing that the children who grew up with the bricks in the 1960s and 70s were now collectors and creators in their own right. This period also saw the successful integration of licensed properties, starting with Star Wars, which allowed the brand to tap into existing cultural phenomena while maintaining the integrity of the building system. In the modern era, the organization has evolved into more than just a toy manufacturer. It has become a medium for education, art, and engineering. The introduction of Mindstorms brought robotics and coding into the ecosystem, while the LEGO Architecture series catered to a more sophisticated aesthetic. The company's rise was heavily influenced by its ability to adapt to changing social values, such as the increasing emphasis on STEM education and the shift towards sustainable manufacturing. They have invested heavily in researching plant-based plastics and recycled materials, aiming to ensure that the longevity of their product does not come at the expense of the environment. The enduring appeal of the brand lies in its inherent modularity. In a world that is increasingly digital and ephemeral, the physical, tactile nature of the brick provides a grounded sense of creation. The long-term impact of this Billund-based venture is seen in the way it has standardized the concept of open-ended play. It moved away from the idea of a toy having a singular purpose, instead providing a tool set for the imagination. Today, the system is used in professional design workshops, therapy sessions, and university engineering courses. It remains a rare example of a company that has managed to scale globally while keeping its foundational principles intact. The simple geometry of the stud and tube system has proven to be an almost infinitely flexible language of construction. From a small carpenter's workshop struggling through an economic depression to a global icon of creativity, the journey of the brand is a testament to the power of a single, well-executed idea. The legacy of the bricks is not found in the sets themselves, but in the millions of unique configurations created by hands across generations, reflecting a universal human desire to build, dismantle, and reimagine the world around them.